bet. We'll be ready.
Okay, we got to say good morning and welcome to Focus VI, your Saturday radio magazine. And today we have a special guest as we get ready for Super Saturday here with Governor Albert Bryan Jr. Good morning, Governor.
Good
How you doing?
morning. Good morning. It's good to be here. It's Saturday, but I know you didn't expect me, right? Because I usually do it remotely. I said no. This morning I'm gonna come in, spend some time with Peter and the people of the Virgin Islands. So good morning.
Well, that's great. Last time we spoke, my big thing, although I don't have no children in school, with the COVID changes and adjustments, tell us what's going on with the school. Because again, and let's talk a little bit about some of the success, but also some of the things that ain't work.
Okay.
Because you have parents complaining one thing about the connectivity. So
Yeah, I mean, connectivity is a huge issue. As a matter of fact, I was on a meeting yesterday with the President of the United States, President Biden, and he got so excited when he heard about that I was asking him a question from the Virgin Islands. He can't wait to get back here. And one of the things with states is connectivity, like broadband is a huge problem. Believe it or not, you would think that in the U.S. mainland that is redundant, but here we actually have more connectivity than most places. Because you think about New York and they have broadband, but when you think about places like Kansas, Montana, Idaho, with spread out people, they really don't have the access that we have. So there are a couple of things that we're doing to improve that. We've actually dedicated about $6 million to expanding our broadband infrastructure. We're in the midst of doing that right now, purchasing the equipment and putting it in, and that's in libraries, downtown, neighborhoods. So you'll be able soon to be in the Virgin Islands and have broadband access almost everywhere you go. There's a populace, and especially in our housing communities, free, especially for students for education. We dedicated a lot of money to that because we think that this is one of the things that are going to help us move forward. Now, with the answer to COVID, we used a lot of the MiFi devices and we gave out a lot of computers and whatnot to help people get on. But it's not enough. And then when you start to load all of that stuff onto the internet, your bandwidth starts to go down. Even developed platforms like Zoom crashed one time, Teams crashed, because so much more people are using the technology now. So we're trying to get students into school as quickly as possible. St. Croix is opening up on Tuesday. They were a little ahead of the curve in terms of getting things together and would have been opened already. But something as little, like, what we love the opening of school? Paper towel. Because we didn't have, we got the wrong size paper towel for the dispenser. We had to get the right one in to make sure students could wash their hands and stuff when they're in the classroom. So we're doing the K-3. I think C-Tech as well, career and technical, going back to school and seeing how we run. We think we got it handled. I'm gonna do a school tour. I think it's Monday or Tuesday morning to go and look at the schools and see what we have done for social distancing. But children are resilient to the COVID virus, so our concern really there is a lot around the adults, the teachers, the staff, or whatever, and making sure everybody stays safe.
would the teachers and the staffers get access to an early shot?
Yeah, we for the government of the Virgin Islands, we actually have a list of the people that we're prioritizing. But there's a lot of people who don't want the vaccine. They don't trust that this vaccine is good, that they've took enough time in researching it. I mean, I took the vaccine. I'm vaccinated twice, and I actually went and tested to see if I had the antibodies to the virus, and I do. And I feel fine. I mean, surely there's long-term effects of things. But I like to remind people, when we were in school, we back in them days in the 60s, early 70s, just line you up and they inject all kind of thing into you, the booster shot. People didn't really even have a choice then. But we've moved from a time where doctors were not to be questioned into a time where we question all the medication, what's going in there. But I remind people all the time, you know how many things you eat that are processed, you don't know what's in there?
Better to be safe than sorry.
Right.
Especially if you have health challenges, age, obesity, you need to get in front of the line.
Because one of the things that I always am leery of, is the milk that don't spoil. Like you have milk that could sit now on a shelf without refrigeration for years and not spoil. That's kind of suspicious to me. But we drink it anyway. I mean, now that I forget what I don't want to give anybody brand up, but it's the same thing. Medical technology is just moving ahead at such a rapid pace. It's amazing. Like less than a year later, we actually have a vaccine that can protect you from this virus.
Hey, technology, science, doctors, education, it works. Question, what were some of the challenges that you constantly hear as from parents as far as the homeschooling and the other issues?
Well, good teachers are hard to find. And for parents to automatically now be in charge of monitoring their students, making sure they go to school, and many of them with jobs, it has been very difficult. We have kept the government at bay, trying to allow people to have flexible hours and work from home to help accommodate some of that. But there really isn't any solution nationwide to having parents work and still have young children at home, which is why it was so important for us to make sure that we get in this K through 3 into school to give parents a little break and to get the students up to par. We're also looking at a lot of summer school and summer programs because, video technology is not for everybody. Students learn different ways, and without a doubt, we've had some gaps along the way, and our students are struggling. And we need to do what we can to do that. The good news is, we have plenty of money to do that. We just got $69 million from the federal government to continue to push COVID, and the president assured us that we're going to be getting even more money to use for broadband and for improving our educational infrastructure so that our students get up to par.
Great. Let's talk about, I've heard you speak of, well, before we go there, this is your midterm.
Yeah.
How was your relationships and what were some of the successes you had with the legislature? And what are some of the issues and what you learned?
So, I am a very kind of wacky kind of person. So, being in politics for the first time was a little bit of a learning curve for me and an eye-opener because, there's a lot of stroking and relationship building that is indeed needed in order for you to get stuff through the legislature. And, I came in with the attitude, well, this makes sense. Well, what else would you do? And certainly senators need more than that. I think much to my demise, we had a very brand new legislature, as we do now again. And senators are reluctant to make leaps of faith. Like, I'm not a politician by nature. I'm a manager by nature. So I'm willing to make decisions that are sometimes controversial and go out on a limb. Because my concern really is not votes. My concern is essentially getting things done. And, I understand senators on a 2-year term, and COVID didn't help because it wiped out about 8 months of action out of the 33rd legislature. But I think we had some good measures that we put forward to them, but they didn't go anywhere. And, this year we have a good relationship with the Senate President. Not that I didn't with Novelle Francis, but with Senator Donna Fred Gregory. I think she has a very focused agenda now as a second-term senator, and she's moving forward on some things that we find commonality on. The ton of infrastructure projects that we just announced using local funds are one of those things. I think she's really concerned about revenue generation as well, so the cannabis bill is going to be there. We agreed to meet with mutual financial advisors that we agree on to give us an update on the securitization and the refinancing of those bonds. So we may be looking at that again. What's the best way to do it? Just trying more to get on the same page as first as Virgin Islanders and then as Democrats moving this agenda forward. We have a ton of federal money, and we really didn't look as hard at the legislature in our first term because we figured the little legislative agenda that we had would get processed really quickly, but nothing really got processed. So we stuck with everything we had from the last 2 years. The behavioral health bill with Senator Francis heard yesterday that deals with mental illness and developmental disabilities. We were very happy. So early in the term, he already got that up. knocking it out the park. There's some changes that are needed there, but we are sure that we're going to get those. Of course, the cannabis bill is still there, and we're trying to get that moved forward. Senator Sorrell keeps saying she has a bill. We're waiting to see the bill, look at that bill to see how we could get recreational cannabis kind of back on the table as a revenue generating source. There's some other little bills there, telehealth, telemedicine. We got a whole Healthier Horizons push that we would like to see get through. Behavioral health is part of that. But those major bills, cannabis, the fire EMS merger, and the refinancing of the bond to address the GRS situation are some of the primary things that we want to keep on because we think they're good things to do. The interest rate on the market keeps going down, which is good for us. So we could save a ton of money if we refinance all of that debt we have outstanding now.
You speak of a lot of money. How do you get that money into the hands of the people? And what's happening with small businesses?
Right.
They seem to be excluded. And I just wonder, is the FEMA plan is let's see how much people we could disqualify versus just let's help people? Because all hands is on deck. You need our business to be thriving. Everybody need a hand up.
Right.
But then there's so many different things to eliminate you, delay you. And just it's tough.
One of the things that I think was well-intentioned but ill-conceived by the last administration was this roofing program, right? So we have 800 roofs now that need to be rebuilt, but we already rebuilt over 1,600 roofs. These last 800 roofs are complete construction. Some of these are complete demolition of the house and rebuilding. You know, to me the better plan would have been to just look at just doing a new housing community and giving people brand new houses because it would have been cheaper to do it like that. But people want to stay in their own house. So we could have told them, listen, keep your house. We're going to build a whole new house for you for $250,000. And that way we would have been able to roll this out a little quicker. The way that this is now, every single house needs the same amount of attention as a major project. So they got to do environmental, asbestos, lead, depending on when the house was built. That house got to get permitted, approved, go through the whole process 800 times. And that Envision program, we've taken a beating on that. And the further part of it is now we're dealing with 40 different contractors instead of one major contractor subbing to everybody else. So you're getting the frustration of contractors that come in and say, why is it taking so long to pay? The federal government is always a slow pay. They're counting on you to have enough liquid income to be able to do that. But in terms of small business, I mean, and you know, I look back at last year and it was a rough year. We're up to $120 million in unemployment insurance distributed. That's more money than was distributed over like the whole of the recession in not even a single year yet. When you look at small business loans, the payroll protection plan, that's another $120 million. We're about to go back and look at again. We gave subsidies to the ferries. We had to issue the $1,200 checks per people. That was $80 million. We gave $1 million to the ferries from St. Thomas to St. John to move that back. We gave $15 million towards paying people's light bill. We have now $21.5 million in rental assistance that we're putting the program to get that out. If you look at that, right, for residential renting, $21.5 million is 26,500 months at $800 a month. That's a lot of money going out in the streets, and that's going directly to the people who need it. With our rental assistance program, we're also allowed to pay for utilities. So if your WAPA bill is late and all that stuff, we could pay that as well.
I hear that, but I wonder. We have a thing where I think some people. I wonder if we training our people to be
dependent.
Yes.
I mean,
no. How do we motivate young people when it's like, look, no, you can't make over X number of dollars and you can't stay in this place? and this kind of craziness. You understand what I'm saying?
I understand what you're saying.
So, but we need to make sure that everybody needs housing and they get housing.
Right.
But we can't put this low bar. We're like, hey, I could cool out my wife alone. Okay, don't get on friend. And come on, right?
It's a
So we have this welfare mentality. You know what I mean? So people don't go and give it the best. People ain't motivated.
But you know what? I think motivation comes in different ways, right? So one of the things that I always try to do is I try to visit schools. I talk to young people a lot, especially when they didn't have COVID, and show them like, hey, listen, I'm from Savannah. I used to run to Red Ball with no shoes on and get beat for it, got a glass bottle cut in my foot. It's like, I'm no different than you. You could be where I'm at. I think what we do a lot of the times inadvertently is we beat down the Virgin Islands and the optimism and the future here for people. I mean, the one analogy I make all the time is I have people calling me about $600 stimulus checks, and then I have people from outside the Virgin Islanders calling about $6 billion that we have to spend in terms of reconstruction. One of the things that we're going to be trying to get together is these business incubators to teach our people how to participate in the business side of the recovery so they can make some of this money. You know, I made a pledge early on that I want to create 100 new millionaires out of this recovery. How do we go about doing that? And it doesn't sound, it's not really that difficult, but you have to give people the tools to participate. We put the pressure on the MAP administration to make sure that we have free tuition to the university. The only historical black college and university that have free tuition in the entire United States. We did that because we want students to be able to compete and be able to take part. One of the things that the Senate President and myself hold really dear is how do you encourage them middle class and build a new middle class, not powered by the government, but by the private sector. So putting aside money to help Virgin Islanders who make too much, right? Be able to qualify for a house and maybe we could pay down something. But we have to do that with local money. So we got to find money in order to help people. Because once you get a house here and a mortgage, the odds of you staying are great. I think we're going to see incredible population growth over the next 10 years. And we have to be ready for that. We're going to need housing facilities. We're going to need hospital, crime. Everything is going to be impacted. Our roadways, you can see that we're doing this stuff now, planning to make sure we can accommodate it.
Let's talk about your budget. Mm-hmm. What's the budget for this fiscal year that you sent to the Senate?
I think we were right around 860 million thereabouts this year. We're going to send back our bill to increase our budget. We want to take our budget up a little bit more because now that we cut out a lot of stuff out of our budget, I think original submission was under 800 million. I think it was somewhere around 760. But you know what we're planning for the next year, because we're going into the budget process, I'm telling them, listen, let's stop fooling ourselves. Waste management. Every year we end up giving them 10 or 15 million dollars to pay haulers and to pay people. The other one is that we have trouble with public works. We have 700 miles of road in the Virgin Islands and $500,000 to do road repair. It doesn't make sense. Let's start escalating the budget and really start to put in some of the things that we need on the personnel. We hire in a lot of people. Every day I'm signing a lot of people onto the government because we need health professionals for COVID. We need IT professionals for labor. We need financial people desperately because we have so much money and managing it in different ways. But unfortunately, a lot of these people just in department to department to department. I'm not seeing enough of new people coming into government.
Again, where do you train?
Right.
You know, we have the worst, I don't know about you. Maybe you was governor, so you go in there, you get great customer service. But we have the worst customer service. And when you go to an agency, people seem like they're angry. Mm-hmm. People, they're not focused. My question is how often do you retrain people?
Right.
You know what I mean? Find out like what's happening with you. We got a job to do. You know, how often do we do that? Or do we do it at all?
So Dana Clendenin, who's in charge of personnel, is really responsible for all of that training and customer service. But I think it's more about building a culture around what the expectations are from a public servant, more than just the training. Because I have a good friend does some training, and you train people, they say the right things, but they don't have the right attitude and the nuance to go with it. For example, you're walking and these, when you go into there, be like, "Good morning, may I help you?" They're saying it, but they're not doing it in a way that gives that impression. So that's a real challenge for us. I think what we're doing now is we're teaching commissioners and helping them become leaders and making them drive that down so it'll come out in how we treat our customers.
And I guess it starts with managers,
Absolutely.
commissioners, and whoever, how you treat the employees.
That's right.
I don't know. I never had the opportunity to work for the government. You know what I mean? But just knowing, if you have to engage everybody, from the janitor to whoever, and just, hey, how you doing?
Yeah.
How you making out?
Yeah.
And see what people's saying. What people's afraid to talk to people and they don't communicate, and it shows. So again, I tell people it takes a combination of things to get it right. And we just throwing out stuff that we need to look at, where the department heads need to provide better service, hold people accountable, retrain people.
Right.
You know what I mean?
No,
Retrain people.
I totally agree with that. I speak to government employees all the time, and they tell me, they're overworked, they're not getting paid. 80 to 90% of our employees are represented by unions, and we're trying to get contracts through to get people unionized. But I think a lot of what the frustration people deal with is legacy stuff. Like, I remember being in labor and I asked people, why you don't apply for this new job? And they're like, well, nobody to get them job. Everything is a hookup or somebody who knows somebody. It's not true. People get jobs all the time because they're qualified. If you looked at the people what we've put in power during our Tregenza and I's short tenure, we kept people who knew how to do the job, and we try to add people with the skill levels that we need. And we keep expecting that we're going to get a salary that we want from raises that are coming from the union or for the government. You really have to start to move up in the food chain to really get ahead, because the inflation rates are moving along all the time. I have long said unions keep negotiating contracts that the government can't pay. So when election year comes, the governor or whoever running promises all of this money, and then we're stuck with the bill after we can't pay. Fortunately, we have paid off all of the promises from the MAP administration, and we're looking to settle some of the contracts now to go forward. But we can't settle contracts and promise people things that we can't pay. I think we need to be like the federal government, where we have a standard thing and say, across the board this year, we're giving everybody the same 3% or whatever. And then every 5 years, we go back and we look at what needs to be adjusted in terms of the scales to get people to where they need to be for their occupation.
How well do you cross sharing? For instance, if my department need people and people who want to move up,
Right.
how do you say, okay, hey, guess what? Dang, 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 dang. This job is available. We got 3 months of testing, if you want to participate. It comes with a raise, benefit. How do we motivate people, encourage people to, hey?
Well, people are doing that. I mean, and that's a problem. It's like I have to tell my commissioners, stop robbing from one another, because they're looking for talent, so they're going and they're looking in government. I think what it is, we have a stagnant base, right, that is looking for somebody else to come and develop you. Is if you want to get ahead, take some training, take a university class, try to get your degree, get certified in project management. You got to do something too in order to make those available opportunities available. And I think I used to tell my employees when I was in labor, don't get locked into labor. It's a big government. Look for opportunities outside of your department, because there's a lot of things going on. And then look what's happening now. Where's the money going in government right now? Infrastructure, public works, waste management, port authority, WAPA, health, that's Department of Health, hospitals, lots of money going in. Education, big money going in education. Over the last year and a half, over $100 million in new money dedicated to education. That's where the money is now. So if you're looking for a career path, you got to look at where it's going. We look at WAPA as a huge problem, but it's a huge opportunity too, because energy is something that we hold very dear and is going to be dealing with for a long time. There's over $1 billion in WAPA projects. Okay, how can I position myself to get piece of that, whether from a standpoint where I'm going to be an employee or from a standpoint where I'm going to be a business owner or a subcontractor trying to participate in the recovery. And I don't think we think like that. We count ourselves out as a participant and we can't get to that money.
Where could people find that information?
So we have...
I think that's the best kept secret.
But it's just like, you know, when I go and talk to students in school, I ask them if the Virgin Islands have a lot of problems. And all of them are like, yeah. And you ask them if the Virgin Islands have a lot of opportunity. They say, no. I said, problems are opportunities, right? All those gaps in our system are opportunities for you to make money or to make your life better or to have an opportunity to do something. So USVI ODR has a website and it lists every single project we're doing. It lists the top 100 governors' priority projects and it tells you where they are and how we're spending the money.
What's that?
USVI ODR. So USVI ODR, I think is .com or .org. But if you just Google USVI ODR, Office of Disaster Recovery, it's going to come right up. And you click on there and it tells you everything. If you go to VIHFA website, VI Housing Finance Authority, all of their CDBG projects are listed out. It tells you where they are in grant funding and how we can get those things done. Public Works has a bunch of projects listed as well too on their website.
I always wondered, say you have a contract for a job, and as far as getting small local businesses involved, right. I just say, well, how come they don't say, okay, well, we giving this company, quote, 85% of this $1 million, whatever it is, and the others going to small local business, where you ain't got to answer to nobody, just do the work. But people free to get the tools they need, the training they need, the help, you know, that kind of stuff. How does it, because it seems like when one man get a thing, they could discriminate, they could do anything they want, abuse. You know what I mean? And it seems to be happening.
But you know what, so you're talking about set-asides, right? But the federal government already have set-asides built into their contracts. The problem is we're all minority here. So you can't, usually what happens is for lack of a better word, a white company or a white-run company gets a job, and then they have to go look for Hispanics, African Americans, or whatever, Latinos, whatever, to try to get them to participate in order to meet the federal regulation. Here, everybody's a minority, so you don't really have that requirement. The other thing with the federal government that is keeping our people back is bonding. Right now, we are already bonding out the capacity of the local contractors. This is why the Envision program is really geared towards helping those local contractors get a little blight and get up and get some work, because they're like $250,000 projects which you could pull up a cash bond or something else. Local money, we don't need to have that. We could vouch for you and say, okay, you're good. You don't need to be bonded. We got